Alright everyone, are you ready for some exposition? First, I want to thank you. Thank you for helping out the people of Ilias Village. As soon as I'm inside Michaela's house, I thank her again. If the villagers had not been teleported here, they would have been completely slaughtered. No, I just regret that everyone couldn't have been saved. We were attacked at the same time, so the mass transfer didn't go off as well as we wanted. Ronnie's face flashed into my mind. He must have been heading to his herb garden. Not in his house, so he didn't make it. How can you use that kind of magic? Just what is this village? You're slow, aren't you? Haven't you noticed it yet? This village is for the hidden, just as its name implies. The ones hiding are not humans. Eh? So, they're all monsters? Yes, most of the inhabitants are monsters and many are elves. Those who hated the conflict between humans and monsters fled here to live in hiding. Though they are few, there are also some fallen angels here. Fallen angels? There are a few angels who rejected Ilias's way of thinking about monsters. Chased from the heavens, they moved here on the surface world. They are referred to as fallen angels. Could it be? You're one too? Yes, I am one of those fallen angels. The first of the angel sisters created by Ilias. I am the older of us twins. First angel? That's true, she must be really powerful. The very first of all angels? Let me tell you everything. The story starts several billion years ago, before this world was formed. Now, this is nice information to know, but I have to ask, with time being of critical importance, what's the relevance? Several billions of years? Before the world was formed? That's a strange expression. Was the world not created by Ilias? Ah, Alice, you've fallen for the propaganda! No, this world was not created by someone. Though it may sound strange, this world was not artificially created by an intelligence. What? Then Ilias is a big, fat liar! Several billions of years after our sun was formed, the primordial holy and dark magics were circulating around its chaotic atmosphere. Darkness and light were kept apart by the chaos of its atmosphere, so to speak. Each of those two forces slowly acquired their own will. Ilias was born from the holy magics, and from the darkness the dark-guarded Alphys came forth. Dark god Alphys? That dark god conveyed herself as the first monster lord. It could be said that Ilias and Alphys were the incarnation of dark and light itself. So Ilias didn't make the world. She just made up the story and lied about it. Humans around the world believe her story. That Ilias was the creator of the world. Her title of the creator of the world is obviously a lie, but the one who guided life from the star was certainly Ilias. So not just humans. I'd forgotten this little tidbit. It wasn't just humans that Ilias guided. It was life itself that Ilias guided. Which is strange, because Ilias isn't the one who has the most authority over life. The Dark God does. The ego of the sacred light began to spout others. That is, the goddess Ilias began forming other beings from herself. Imitating herself, she created 2 twin life forms she called angels. Twin primordial angels. You're the older one? The woman standing before me is an offshoot of Ilias' self. Now that I look, she does look similar to Ilias. After that, Ilias created many offshoots of herself. In her words, she created angels. Through trial and error, she was making creations similar to her own existence. But though she made them of her own holy element, each angel had a will of their own. Ilias was never satisfied with just that. Why was she going so far to try and create something like herself? Perhaps she was lonely. Since she first formed, she spent many millions of years alone. As darkness itself, Alphys and Ilias could never cross. For a long time, Ilias was absolutely alone. Now, back to the story. Ilias gave up on making copies of herself and looked towards the life flourishing on the surface. This was several 100 million years ago now. At that time, the surface life of this planet consisted of primitive reptiles and fish. She came to the surface to try and give some of those beings intelligence. I see. To artificially evolve them. Yes, that's correct. Trying to make intelligence similar to her, she inspected the various creatures and eliminated some. She quickly crossed off the giant reptiles roaming the surface and destroyed them all. To make it easier for mammals to flourish, she changed the environment and vegetation. Yes, we know this much. I guess this is what Michaela meant by guiding life. To get to the point where humans were created, which we knew about. I thought she was talking broader scope than that. Through hundreds of millions of years of trial and error, she created both small and large mammals. Repeating her process of selection and elimination, eventually monkeys came forth. From more selection and elimination, they grew into humans. And at last, Ilias declared humans complete. Yeah, she declared humans complete when she looked down at something that's ancestor used to be a monkey and said, yeah, I'd fuck it. That's when humans were complete. She was not able to make humans quickly with her power as a goddess? This really isn't on my at all. It was as primitive as selective breeding of livestock. Ilias's aim to have direct control on the genome did not come until much later. It's a little confusing, but it's true Ilias created humans, isn't it? No, not created, I guess. More like raised? How she raised humans is a lot more involved than her story. Created is still not accurate. Though she may have influenced evolution, humans appeared on their own. Well, I mean, having an intelligence directly guide evolution still falls under part of the definition of intelligence design, doesn't it? I mean, there are many people who believe in God and in evolution, just thinking that God guided evolution, so that's not too far off from what a lot of people believe. Anyway, I think you're splitting hairs with the terms there, Michaela. They stood on their own 2 feet and became the rulers of the surface world. Well, yeah, because Ilias allowed them to. If Ilias didn't want them to become rulers of the surface world, she would have wiped them out just like she's doing now. Making contact with them in their primitive state, Ilias became the source of their worship. But unwanted existence also lived on the ground. They were the monsters created by the dark god Alphes. If Ilias created humans by selective breeding... how the founding monster lord create monsters? I'm sure I don't need to explain it to you, Monster Lord. But the element of darkness interferes with the genes of an organism. The dark god Alphes was able to modify creatures with her own power. Much more directly than Ilias, she was able to influence creatures' growth. I see. As expected, the Monster Lord was more skilled than Ilias. It's not a factor of ability. The difference was due simply to the properties of their own magic. Ilias's holy magic excels at influencing the spirit, so she was able to more easily impart matters of spirit and soul. Yes, Ilias is the one who took the primitive humans and gave them souls. That's part of her magic. And it's also why, when the humans die, they end up going up to heaven to be judged by Ilias. So, that's kind of a bummer in that regards, because Ilias is a bitch. Monsters don't have to deal with that, because Ilias didn't give them souls, and what souls they do have are different from humans, so they're outside of Ilias's jurisdiction. Now, back to the story. The dark god Alphes also formed offshoots of herself. The first was known as Alphes II, the second Monster Lord. Okay, so the second Monster Lord did come before the 6 ancestors. In addition, Dark God Alphes combined her own genes with those of the creatures that dwelled on the surface and created 6 monsters. They are the legendary monsters that came to be known as the 6 ancestors. Alright, so she directly combined her genes with genes of the monsters on the surface. So it's Alphes the first, Alphes the second, 6 ancestors, and then she starts having the second Monster Lord and the 6 ancestors start breeding with the humans to create everything afterwards. All monsters that exist to this day can trace their blood back to one of these 6. 6 ancestors? Didn't Promisstein say something about them? That they were sealed? All the monsters of the world tracing back to the 6 ancestors. First time I heard about this was today. Even I have only heard of things like that referenced in ancient legends. I wonder if even Tamamo knows about— oh, Tamamo knows everything about that! That story was not handed down to the surface world. After the Great Monster Wars, Ilias tried to wipe out unfavorable facts. Yep, history is written by the victors. Once you've won a war, you can edit the textbooks to say whatever you want them to say. The Great Monster Wars. Huge war between Ilias and the first Monster Lord. Even a child has heard of its existence. As for what actually happened, other than vague legends, nothing is really known for sure. Now then, let's talk about the Great Monster Wars. Around 1,000 years ago, the conflict between Alphes and Ilias was approaching a conclusion. At last, the battle between them began on the surface world itself. Oh, so they battled in the heavens first? Huh. An army of angels led by Ilias on one side, with the legion of monsters led by Alphys on the other. Even humans were dragged into it, and the fighting became fierce. I was an archangel, spearheading assaults by the angel army. I crossed swords with those 6 ancestors many times. Of course, my younger sister showed her might on the battlefield at the same time. Yeah, being the result of half of all casualties. On the monster side, at least. Although that never was specified. So which side won? Legend says that Ilias won the war. After hearing all that I have, I'm starting to doubt that. Ilias was the victor. Are you saying that the first monster lord was defeated by Ilias? I cannot believe that. In terms of actual status of the war itself, Alphys' forces were superior the entire time. The reason Ilias won was due to a cowardly trick. I believe you now. The clashes between the two gods resulted in terrible destruction. They both realized that if they continue fighting, they would destroy everything. On the verge of destroying the very world itself, Alphys hesitated. But Ilias didn't, threatening the very survival of the world. Threaten? If they continue fighting, they would have destroyed the world? Ilias went to Alphys, telling her to surrender, as she never would. If they kept fighting, both of them, the angels, the monsters, and the humans would all perish. But she said that if the Dark God and the 6 ancestors sealed themselves, she would not lay hands on the other monsters. That's bullshit. But cowardice! No, rather than cowardly. Yes, she was insane. Threatening the existence of everything, she used the world as a hostage for surrender. Seeing no other path, the Dark God chose to surrender. Along with the 6 ancestors, they were sealed with a special seal. 6 ancestors' Great Seal! By converting their own magic, 6 ancestors used it to seal themselves away. Alphys used the same technique to seal herself. Using current technology, Promising managed to recreate the effects of the seal. Oh, founding monster lord, how sad. In exchange for a guarantee of safety for her children, she sealed herself away. Was she not concerned that Ilias would break her promise? Of course, Alphys knew well Ilias's nature. So they tied in a special trigger that would cancel the seal into their magic. It was to be released if Ilias broke her promise. At that time, the seal would be broken, and the Dark God would revive. If Ilias breaks her promise, then she will revive? But how's that judged by? As you know, when magic dies, their magic returns to the world. Like all things, the magic flows into the atmosphere to be used by the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. Yep, this world works on a reincarnation system. If a large amount of dark monster magic were released at once, it would impact that transmigration. So the atmosphere itself would become heavily saturated with dark magic. The amount of holy and dark magic must stay in balance or the seal will break. So if Ilias starts committing genocide against monsters... Yes, Dark God Alphys will awaken from her seal, and that's why That's at least the pretense that that Ilias is using to have Black Alice work for her. So that way, as Ilias is going around slaying all the monsters, there are still Black Alice and her team to keep the energy in balance. What? I didn't even know that! That's because this is something Ilias didn't want anyone to know. Building her great power, Ilias destroyed the Dark God. That's the story that was convenient for Ilias. Wait a second. But Ilias is slaughtering monsters. 30 years ago, she massacred monsters at Remina. And isn't this reincarnation she's trying to do going to kill all of the monsters? Of course, Ilias has spent a long time trying to find a way around that. From the moment Dark God Alphys was sealed, she has been thinking of countermeasures. Developing a new seal, or a way to manipulate the balance. Measures for the worst case scenario if she were to revive. And at last she decided to order her smartest angels to create a new type of monster. Smart angels? Promestein? As I said earlier, Alphys was skilled at directly manipulating organisms. Ilias focused on that and ordered her subordinate angels to study the underlying principles. Focused on that, it took them roughly 500 years. As a result, they decided on a policy of letting monsters manage the flow of dark magic. Yep, 500 years. From when Ilias revived Black Alice to manage the dark energy, and had Promestein working on her chimeras. For that purpose, Ilias singled out Alphys VIII. When she was struck down by the hero, Ilias saved her life. Under the condition that she would manage the dark monster magic as the world was recreated. That's insane! Yes, Ilias' strategy has gone way too far. Rebels against her finally started to appear. That was my sister. One of the twin angels that Ilias first created. As expected, some just couldn't bear it any longer. Even more for it to be one of her very first allies. My younger sister seemed to have been questioning Ilias ever since the start of the Great Monster Wars. Her insane way of fighting to the very end, even if it would destroy everything. At her conclusion with Alphys VIII, she finally broke away. Oh, so Lucifina was still with Ilias up until Heinrich's journey ended. Which begs the question, if Heinrich had Angel Halo, and Lucifina didn't break away from Ilias until after the fight with Alice VIII, then who created Angel Halo? Surely Lucifina didn't create it while she was still up with Ilias. I guess it must have just been another fallen angel that created Angel Halo. She knew that Ilias would try to destroy humanity one day. My younger sister seemed to know exactly what was going to happen. Indeed she did. And she plotted her revenge. Or at least a way to save humanity. As I said before, my sister led an army of angels. There is only one who can match her might. Therefore I, one of equal power, was chosen to hunt her down. Holding hesitations in my heart, I stood in front of her. The fight with my younger sister was extremely fierce. Suffering serious wounds, she became a fallen angel and escaped to the surface world. Did you let her escape to the surface world on purpose? I cannot say for sure. Doubt in Ilias had already begun flaring in my mind. A few hundred years later, Leia's finally set into motion what she'd been planning for years. Giving orders to her angels, she ordered the humans and monsters coexisting in Remina to be annihilated. She justified it by saying they were performing large-scale magic experiments. Yep, that was the actual reason that she destroyed them. Because they were experimenting with holy dark magic fusion. But the arrogant move was reason enough for them to be destroyed. After all, Ilias hates most of those who refuse to follow her. Her true nature is one of jealousy and possessiveness, paranoid about others. Michaela was a close confidant of Ilias for thousands of years. There's a deep sense of loss and pain in her voice. Like my sister, I finally realized Ilias' true nature. Escaping the heavens, I came to the surface world. I decided to protect the other fallen angels. Not too long ago, I settled in this village. This place already had a reputation of being a hidden village of monsters. Hidden village, huh? Lazarus said my father would let monsters escape. I wonder if this is where he sent them. Anyway, so the timeline we've got to working now is... In the beginning, there was Ilias and... in the beginning, there was energy. The dark and light energy gave rise to Ilias and Alphys the First. Then Ilias created her angels and began guiding humans through their evolution. Meanwhile, the Dark God created first the second Monster Lord, and then the six ancestors. And then the second Monster Lord and the six ancestors started mating with the humans, which pissed Ilias off and kicked off the Great Monster Wars. The Great Monster Wars were 1,000 years ago. And then 500 years ago was Heinrich's battle against Salus VIII. And that is what finally set to Lucifina off, to where she just became a fallen angel. And then 30 years ago was the slaughter of Rona, which was the final straw for Michaela here, and she became a fallen angel. After descending to the surface, I searched for my missing sister. After falling, she seemed to have wandered the surface world for several hundred years. And one day, she happened to meet a hero who was in the midst of despair. Yep, she met. So then, after the slaughter of Remina, humans were on bad terms with monsters, and Luca's father and his group made their way to the Monster Lord's castle to slay Alphys the 15th. But then Alice the 16th wiped out their party, leaving only Lazarus and Marcellus alive. Marcellus was being all dramatic about his party being dead, forming Ilias Cruz. And then, in his despair, he finally met Lucifina. And then, after getting laid a couple of times, he mellowed out and started saving monsters again. Falling in love, she decided to live out her days as a human with him. Until the very end, she lived and died as a human. My sister's name was Lucifina, my mother. Finally understand now. My mother was a fallen angel who rebelled against Ilias. is a child of one of the original angels? That is surprising, even to me. Are you shocked, Luca, to know that you are not a pure human? No, Michaela. I slowly shake my head. More than shock, I'm proud. My existence itself is proof that humans, monsters, and angels can all get along. Yeah, be a little bit careful with that monster part, because I believe you have monster genes in you as well, all the way from Alice the 8th. Nothing in here so far conflicts with that. There's only one sticking point, really, and that's the princess we met in Paradox. It's the only sticking point, but there are ways around that. I see. You truly grew up to be a good child. Michaela softly smiles at me. She was my mom's sister. That means she's my aunt. And Ilias is your gram-gram. I thought leaves me feeling a little weird. By the way, Luca, do you know about your father's family? Oh, what's this? Yeah. No, I never really knew my father. Your father, Marcellus, is a descendant of the hero Heinrich. That means you're from a line of legendary heroes. Ah, no additional hints about him being a potential monster lineage as well? I'm related to Heinrich? Bred from legendary heroes and angels and potentially monsters. It's a nice theory, at least so far. We'll see in part 3 of Paradox if I'm right. But if I'm right, I'll have frickin' called it. I've stated it enough times. It explains why you are superhuman in various ways. But it was that family history that brought Ilias's attention towards you. I'm sure my sister deeply regrets that. Even though I was worried about you, the orphan of my late sister, I didn't know what Ilias would do if I ever made contact with you. As a result, I left you alone all this time. Luca, please forgive my incompetence. No. It's enough that you saved the people of Ilias Village. That's why she drove me out so quickly when I came here before. I can see it from a mile away now. Everything would have changed if I knew then what I know now. Would it though? Would it though? Knowing that you're part angel. I mean, I guess knowing that Ilias was full of shit would change a lot. I mean, Alice was already trying to push you in that direction. Hell, maybe you wouldn't have even believed Michaela back then. I don't think it would have changed your journey all that much. The individual steps along the way wouldn't have been any different. It's just your mindset about Ilias. I wouldn't have been able to live normally after finding out about that. People who lose their faith can live just as normally as people with faith. But now that the world is in this state, she has finally told me everything. That's the end of my story. You two will be fighting against Ilias now, won't you? Yes! Of course! I have lived on the surface so long now, I cannot fight any longer. Bull. The air in the surface world is not very good for angels. It's regrettable, but I can only pray for your victory. Oh, I thought I ordered nobody to disturb us for a while.